get that number of procedures in, depending on what the situations are that come up in your office.
That's what I'm saying. As far as my office practice goes, where I'm being paid as electrologist to work on somebody, will be different than where I bring in, essentially models or people in the community that want to be worked on for electrolysis by a trainee and have them work on those hours where those people are willing to have the different procedures done on them. Because, especially in the trans community, there's a lot of people that if I said, hey, I have trainees here that need people to work on them, and we do it at a very reduced rate, just, that I would have a lot of people more than willing to have a lot of work done on them, and they don't care where it's at, whether it's, down their arms, legs, underarms, bikini line.
So when they do block, say a procedure, if somebody's did they get 1 credit for a 2-hour procedure, somebody gets 1 credit for a 15-minute procedure, how does that seem fair? If somebody's going to finish faster and somebody gets slower, but they may have done a lot more hours actual treatment time.
I believe we said a procedure was 1 hour, and that was with sanitation, setup, and work.
Oh,
in the previous conversation.
Cynthia is going to clarify that for.
Okay. So the actual, we took out the hour per procedure because we determined that certain areas may only take 15 minutes and other areas may take 2 hours. And so you still have to do the amount of procedures. So you can do, so many of this procedure and so many of that procedure, but you have to meet the number of procedures and you have to meet the number of hours.
Yeah.
So say one procedure of a certain type takes 15 minutes. You're going to have to do 4 of those procedures to get an hour, but you still have to have your total hours in the end.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you. I've forgotten some of that.
Welcome.
Okay, thanks, Sheila. Jamie, did you have another comment? Let's limit it to about 1 minute on this topic.
All right, I kind of agree with Sheila that I don't like the idea of how many procedures, because if you're going to work on somebody's arm or underarm, if you know electrolysis, all right, when you work on somebody's eyebrows, it's a slightly different technique than if you're working on their chin. It's different if you're working on their ears, but the technique is the same. You're putting in the needle at the angle that the hair is growing out of. And what heat you use depends on the area.
Jamie, I'm going to interrupt you. We at our education committee meeting took a vote on this. This is not up for discussion, the amount of hours.
Fine.
It was voted on and we're going to move forward. Thank you. I appreciate your input.
No problem.
Okay.
The last thing we want to do is have another qualification committee meeting and then have to have another rules advisory committee.
It was voted on with theirs. We're not having a meeting.
We're not microphone. Okay, so now we're moving on to identify what groups and racial groups are impacted by the rule. So this will be my first time writing this. I think, no, I did it once. So who is subject to the rule? So a person seeking to obtain a license in Oregon, persons wanting to supervise trainees, individuals seeking permanent hair removal. I think generally it could affect all racial groups. Anyone who is seeking to be a licensee could be anyone, and the standards would be, would be done the same for anybody. We're not going to have, one person gets someone to do 500 hours and the other person gets to do 600 hours. It'll be uniform. Everyone does the same requirements, shows the same documentation, takes the same tests. So I think that's pretty easy for me to write. What issues does the rule address? So it addresses a 600-hour training program. So we don't have to have something in school, so we can at least start getting people trained and going. It addresses the practical examination and written for reciprocity and removing those two barriers. People can get licensed from other states faster. It does add the laws and rules exam. But it's online and free, so I don't think that is too much of a barrier. I think it's worth mentioning, not necessarily a barrier. And it is what it is addressed, and then who will be affected. A lot of these questions are redundant, so we're clear. Who will be affected? The same people under A will be affected. Pop in if you guys have other things. Which racial groups will be affected by the rule? We just answered that. Which racial groups are likely to be most concerned by issues addressed in the rule? Do you guys know any? I don't know that there would be any one racial group singled out. I can't think of anything. Which racial groups are likely to be most affected by the issues addressed in the rule? Again, it's going to be all even. Everyone's going to get the same requirements, so it's not going to change from person to person. If current committee members do not represent the racial groups likely to be affected by the rule, who can HLO contact that represents racial groups likely to be affected by the rule? I have to pull up my list. Hold on, give me 1 second here. Gotta pull up the list. Let's see. So people of color that met, Kate Kaufman met that requirement, so I can talk with Kate about, that was a community likely to be affected. That would be under the racial community. What else?
I guess Kate and I are connected to coalitions of communities of color, so I'm happy to bring back what is
Okay.
not considered just confidential for this to folks, since it's a public meeting. I can share out.
Yes, that would be great. Yeah, if you want to email me and then I can put something in about that, that would be amazing. So Seth's gonna give me that information.
I can see potentially what this could do is expanding the opportunities with the training program to get licensed could create more career paths in our community. Trans folks want to do this work for other trans folks because there's been barriers. And so I can see this allowing for more financial stability if folks are able to get into the field, if we're able to provide scholarships, which is a project I'm working on. So there could be some ways that this does help uplift and provide financial careers for folks of color. So I can see this folks who are historically marginalized and don't have access if we create some training programs. And so, yeah, there could be layers where marginalized groups have access to a career path. And I know a lot of folks want to get into this work.
What was the name of the group that you work with?
I'm connected to a lot of coalitions. And so, you know, groups like Black and Beyond the Binary or other groups I could consult with to see if there's any impacts on folks that the licensing requirements address.
That's exactly what that question says, is who else can we talk to? Okay, so I'll send you an email, kind of a reminder, and then you can reply once you get, you know, any answers that you can get. What other resources are available to HLO to find data that would help determine racial equity impacts specific to this rule? I have no idea. What I do sometimes is licensees are able to provide us, when they apply, what race, ethnicity, and all of that they are. Usually nobody does it, but I will have that information ran. So that's some data that we have. Other than that, I don't know if they have data on like transgender
There's a
surgery people and their racial background. I don't know. I have no idea.
There's the U.S. Trans Survey is done, and the next results will be coming out this year and next year. So that's always something that asks questions about healthcare access by state. That might be helpful for us if we need that data point for this community.
Yes, that would be awesome. Please help identify any unintended adverse consequences that this rule might have on racial equity. I think what we've done is try to remove any of those adverse consequences. So again, if some of these things come back up that you want to add things, for sure, email me, call me. Let's talk through it. Jamie, Seth, Sheila, Lacey, I'll be getting back with you guys, and Kate and Amy. And Sabine, if you guys have things that you want to throw at me that come up, go ahead and do that. I would need to have it by like September, preferably like the 8th, and I could move it into the report for the board. So, and I'll put that in an email to you guys, so that you'll have that, knowing when I need the information and kind of what we've talked about. I'll kind of fill some of this stuff in so we know the direction that we're going. Is that good for the fiscal and racial equity statements? We feel pretty good about that? Hold on, I'm pulling back up your guys' faces. No hands. So next item on the agenda is looking at the timeline for rules. So September 12th, the board will meet. And then,
I'm Sammy.
oh,
I had a
go ahead,
question going
Lacey.
back for a second. So I don't know if it fits into that, but I've had several veterans that have inquired, me being a veteran. I've had several veterans, both trans and not or cis, that have inquired too about being able to do this kind of training, especially people that are coming back from Iraq and stuff like that, that were medics and stuff and looking for something that's kind of in the medic field kind of thing too. So I've had some people reach out to me about that kind of stuff too. So that's another group. I don't know where it fits in with race, but I want to kind of throw that out there too.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, really, at the end of the day, these types of statements are to get people thinking about how it might affect them or other people in their communities. We're never going to hit the mark exactly. There's just too many hypotheticals, but it's really a way to get people thinking about how these things can affect them and their communities.
I'm happy to share a statement on how, it impacts the trans communities of color.
Yes.
I can email that to you.
That'd be awesome. So September 12th, the board will review all of your guys' stuff. They'll have the qualification committee information, and then both the rules advisory committee reports. I'll probably send them the early on, send them the audio if they want to go and listen, they can. So that'll be September 12th. October 1st, I will file with the Secretary of State's office, which will start the 28-day public comment timer. I'll have a hearing October 19th. And then November 7th board meeting, they'll adopt rules, and January 1, 2023, they will be in effect and training can commence. So we'll start accepting applications for trainees before that, so we can, and supervisor applications before that. Don't know exactly the dates. I'm thinking probably December 1st-ish, so people can hit the ground running on January 1. That's all I have. We have public and interested parties feedback. Anybody on the line? How do I find out? Is there anybody on the line? Hello? Hello? Nope, nobody. So we got done 35 minutes ahead. Oh, go ahead, Sheila.
I don't think this was on our list to go over, but you'd sent out the copy of the tracking forms for the training, and I think they're a little unwieldy. I would recommend, I know, this one, I'm holding this up now. It's a great start, but you've got all these categories, and then you've got forms to fill out with date and hours, but there's no line to write in what category it applies to. Like you've got 12 items under business operations, and how those 15 hours are divided up, you know, is going to vary to a degree, but there's no place to put, you've got the date, the hours, but there's no place to put what actually was covered in those. So I don't know if you were requiring the trainers to use these exact papers or not, but I would hope that maybe they could be made a little more usable. It doesn't quite match up with being able to put in what you're looking for, just make sure everything's covered. So I just want to throw that out. I don't know if that's a requirement that they're used. If not, I hope that they find something that would work a little better than that.
Sabina?
I just wanted to verify that you will be, or I guess, will you be sending out the final revisions that you're going to be making to all of us in between the end of this meeting and you submitting them to the board?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing, I hope you don't mind me asking this on the meeting, but I was wondering, Seth, I am interested in hearing more about your scholarship work. Do you have an email address or phone number that I could get in touch with you through?
Yeah, you can find us on the Basic Rights website under our staff page. It's just my first name at basicrights.org.
Seth at basicrights.org.
Yeah, there's no scholarship program yet. This is going to be a long-term workforce.
Right,
development program.
100%. But I know of other people interested in working with something like that, and I was hoping to pass your information along.
Yep, you can find me on the website for sure.
Great, thanks.
All right, everybody. I really appreciate all your help. This has been really good conversation and decision making. Sheila, did you have another question?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'll take my hand down.
Jamie, do you have something?
Yeah, Sabina, I'd really like to talk to you. Can you call me? I have no problem with giving you my telephone number, or you give me your telephone number.
I can email her your information to her if that's
Yeah,
okay.
that sounds great. That would be
Okay.
great.
Alright.
Thank you.
Yeah, that would be good. I would like to talk with you. All
Okay,
right.
cool.
Okay, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. So there's no public comment. Well, at this time, the Board of Electrologists, Body Art Practitioners, Electrology Rules will hear interested parties' feedback. No one's there. The Board of Electrologists and Body Art Practitioners, Electrology Rules Advisory Committee meeting is adjourned at 12:29 p.m. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, Sammy, I have a